Thank you, Sheriff Martinez, for talking to us about this issue today. We really want to understand, how the border crisis is affecting communities just north of the border. And you oversee Val Verde County. What has it been like as far as criminal activity? Because what you're dealing with is those that are trying to evade apprehension. So what does that look like for the community and for what you're having to deal with?
Okay, so, Val Verde County, we share 110 miles of border with Mexico, the Mexican state of Coahuila. We cover 3,200 square miles. So we have, in my opinion, two classes of people that are coming in. Those that want to basically self-surrender, and then those that do not want to be apprehended. So those are the ones that we're really dealing with right now. Now, those that don't want to be apprehended, they're coming in through rural areas of our county. And that's where the majority of those are being apprehended. We have a lot of traffic out to the west of Del Rio to the county line. That's you see on this map, that blue spot of water going to the west, that's all rural. There's no major populations out there. So that's where we're seeing a lot of, they're breaking into homes and they're taking water, they're taking food, they're taking binoculars, knives, stuff like that. A lot of those crimes are not even reported to us. The landowners will notify Border Patrol, and Border Patrol, their interest is in catching a body that caused that damage or whatever, but they're not interested in filing a burglary case on that, because that's not within their purview. That falls back to us. So a lot of that crime doesn't go reported. There's people that are evading arrest. They run through landowners' fences. They damage the fences. The livestock gets crossed, as you heard yesterday. So we've had people also to the east of us here. They were, and then you heard the story yesterday. An individual, was laying on the ground, and the guy attempted to, thought he needed some medical aid, and basically they stole the truck that he was in. Luckily, it ran out of gas, and they found it. But those are some of the crimes that are taking place, and I don't believe that they apprehended those individuals. So through the Del Rio sector in fiscal year of 2021, there was almost 260,000 people that came through, or that were apprehended, and the known gotaways back to September the 17th of last year was almost 60,000 that they weren't able to respond to either sensor hits or they were seen on cameras, but our agents, our Border Patrol agents, didn't have anybody to respond to those cases.
So what have the arrests look like on your end? Have you been able to go after those that are, especially in these rural areas that are going onto private land? We've talked to ranchers. We've seen yesterday, as you mentioned, that there is a lot of damage done to these properties, these ranches, to their fencing, to their houses. They're stealing water from the tanks in a very dry area. So are you guys able to make some arrests, and what are your jails looking like based on this crisis and what you're dealing with?
Okay, so you asked a lot of questions there, so let me see if I can answer that. So we've made a couple of arrests on a burglary where they burglarized, they broke into a house, they ate, they rested there, they stole a ATV, and they drove it cross country. They stole it in Val Verde County, and they ended up north of Brackettville, going cross country. In that case, we learned that while they were at that house, they were playing around with a weapon that was there, not knowing anything about the weapon, and it was discharged. And when they made the arrest in Kenny County, that individual has suffered a gunshot wound. So, so that
Wow.
we ended up with an individual that was injured. So, we were able to solve that case, that we have 4 individuals that are still in our jail. Now, before Operation Lone Star on Governor Abbott's watch, my jail population here exceeded the numbers that what we can legally hold. Legally we can hold about 180 souls in there, but then you get to dividing them by male or female, sex offenders, mental health, gangs. You cannot have different gangs living with different gangs, because it's a general population for the most part. So that those 187 beds that we can technically have, we're reduced to about, we feel that we can effectively run the jail with all those other variables, anywhere from 92 to 102. To give you an example, at one time we had 8 females taking up the 24-bed pod. We couldn't use those other 24 beds. Mm-hmm. So right off the top, we've lost, those extra beds. We can't use them unless it's a female. Mm-hmm. So with Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star, there's a structure out front that they're arresting for criminal trespass, evading detention, alien smuggling. They're arresting single adult males. They're being processed through here. That has greatly reduced our jail population to the numbers that we like to have, running them at about 92 to 102. Today's population is right at 100. So we feel comfortable that way. But then you take in COVID mm-hmm. in one of those cells. That cell becomes locked down, and you can't put anybody else in it till they clear. 10 days, everybody is cleared. So there's a lot of variables that go into maintaining and running the jail and the population. But thanks to Operation Lone Star, that has been a big help. They're processing about 30 individuals through the processing center that are on either human smuggling, criminal trespass cases that are being run through the state. Those folks are going to the detention facility in Dilley. We are just a processing center, so they're here less than 24 hours mm-hmm. and they're gone. So initially, Val Verde County lost $223,000 in those 140 and in those 40 inmates that DPS arrested here in Val Verde County. So our taxpayers, because that was revenue that was taken from us, because we had to house those additional individuals. At one time, our jail population was pushing 147, and that's not for us. That's not normal. We don't feel comfortable operating that way, but it cut into our profit in housing those inmates in the agreement that we have with the GEO group. So we lost money, and that's basically taxpayers' money, and we lost $223,000.
So are you seeing any kind of criminal history before they get into your custody? Is there any information you have or that DPS is able to hand over to you, or because you mentioned a number of different crimes that people are in your jail for? Is that something you see?
So that's something we see, and through I hadn't seen the numbers lately from DPS as to the criminal histories that are coming through. A lot of these are, to give an example, and these are Border Patrol numbers that as of May 10th, there was a 2,500 increase in sex offender arrests just in the Del Rio sector. Okay, then you go 2 months down the road, that number drops drastically to 1,466, and then another 2 months down the road, that number drops again to 1,300%, and then for the year, that number ends up being 418%. But, I look at it this way. Back in May, they had agents on the line. Then we got the rush of people coming in. They had to pull the agents off the line to process, to care for some of the individuals that were being processed through Border Patrol. So they took their agents on the line, nobody on the line. So that's, in my opinion, that's why that number went down.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up, for that period of time, was 114 sex offenders arrested versus 22 the previous year.
Are you seeing that affect the community? Because obviously not all of these people who have criminal histories make it into your custody or in Border Patrol custody. So is that something the community is having to deal with here?
So, we've had an increase in crime a little bit due to the crisis that we're in. They've broken into some houses, and in my opinion, these are some of our crooks from Mexico, Ciudad Acuña mainly, that are coming across, breaking into a house and going back. And people always want to blame some of the immigrants that are doing this. Well, what we've had around Del Rio, I think that's the case. They're coming in and they're breaking into a house and they're going back to Mexico. DPS has made several arrests on burglaries because I think the same house was burglarized 4 or 5 different times till they got the individual and they filed on them. But, the people that are coming through that don't want to get caught, they're not staying here. For example, the Venezuelan people and the Haitian people, not one has stayed here. Not one of those people. Nobody has taken up residence here in Val Verde County. They're going throughout the United States. That's where they want to get established. So the crimes that have taken place, I think that a limited number of those crimes are local crooks and are crooks from Ciudad Acuña that are kind of mixing in and burglarizing places and going their way. But some of these immigrants that are coming across, especially in the populated areas in Del Rio, those are some of those crooks. But the rest that are coming through the rural areas, they're breaking into ranch houses. They're taking food and, again, food and water, clothing to keep warm, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's what's taking place.
So do you feel like, and it sounds like maybe from what you were talking about with your jail capacity, but do you have the resources you need with this influx of people coming across, and of course people who are coming across trying to evade arrest, have criminal histories, pose a threat to your community?
So as if you were to look at that, if you were to ask me that question, do I physically have what I need? No. But all of us working together, which we have the National Guard here, we got DPS, we got Border Patrol, and there's us. We find a way to keep our community safe. So with DPS, whatever criminal trespass charges or evading arrest or human smuggling cases, we've got those resources to be able to handle that. Anything else, we'll make room in our jail, provided we can do so safely to handle those arrests. Everything else is technically, the immigration issue is a Border Patrol issue. It's a federal issue. So we find a way to work together to get it addressed in an effort to keep our community safe.
Do you think the federal government's doing enough?
No, I think they're doing what they can with the resources they currently have. And they're bending over backwards. And, my hat's off to those guys. They're doing an excellent job with the resources they have. I myself have a son that's in Border Patrol in Brackettville in Kenny County. So I hear firsthand, through him as to what they're dealing with. And I'm in constant communication with the leadership here in Del Rio of Border Patrol. And I feel for them, but they're doing with their available resources, are doing the best they can with what they have. And we're just there to, stand shoulder to shoulder with them.